episode of the podcast affirmation right here. But to say 108 medicine building emhlanga sibuyile futhi siphethe manje uNonkululeko Hlongwane wamhlongo ngibiza kahle ngaphambanisa mhlawumbe ngiyayiphambanisa nje but siphethe uNonkululeko. I'm sitting about that and sibuyile usizo plus igama namhlanje sokhuluma neRising Mzansi sinika yona ke ithuku zokhumbula ukuthi sibuya bosa iphethe uMayimani uyafika naye labathi umusi Mayimani bake bafika futhi ozwakele emncango beAction SA bake bafika beANC unobhala weANC umnumzane Bheki Mtolo baningi bafika bayaphuba abapolitika be-entertainment. I'm reminded of abantu abanjengoJacinta Ngobesa abantu abanjengoHappy Girl baningi bayeza namhlanje welcome uNonkululeko oyiconvene uzocacisa ukuthi umhlobo ubuphi umhlobo wakhe ubuphi sawubona.
Yebo sawubona njalo.
Alright.
Hayi sakhe
ayahlangana ama-numbers.
Awu sesikhulume kanganga kangahlangana kanjalo.
Namhlanje uNonkululeko usuya kwi-Rising Mzansi uyi-convener eKZN ngicabanga ukuthi ama-provinces ahlukahlukene banama-conveners akhona anakayo i-conference.
No, and that's specifically why sinama convener ayo chairperson.
Ayo chairperson. Ngiyayizwa. So, uRising Mzansi ngicabanga ukuthi ifikile iyazwakala futhi ipresence yakhe abantu abaningi bayifika iRising Mzansi ngoba maningi amaqembu asengenile manje maningi kakhulu khona singawakhumbula kodwa iRising Mzansi siyayikhumbula ngaso sonke isikhathi kwenziwa yini.
No, I think it's because it's hlukile and not just ama-policies into ekhuluma ngayo but ngendlela esiyiphatha ngayo imphakathi. We are intentional of ukungena ngokuhlonipha, we are intentional of ukukhuluma iqiniso abantu
politics.
Yes. And that is why that's exactly why abantu besikholwa esikhathini esiningi bese sikhuluma iqiniso abantu abalithandi but iyona into abayibongayo that we're able to say ukuthi realistically nazi izinto esikwazi ukuzenza njengamanje but this is a vision esinayo for iNingizimu Afrika in 5 years time.
Yazi ngajabula kakhulu ukwazi izinto okay ama-policies or inqubomgomo yayo iRising Mzansi so that sizothi siqhubekela phambili sibe clear ukuthi nina because politics is about ama-promises.
Yeah.
Whether yafulfilleka ungafulfilleki kodwa it's about ama-promises. Abanye baqala ukusipromisa kudala nalamanje kusalawo ama-promises. Ngicabanga ukuthi nakwi-state of the nation
sizoqhubeka kona
same story, same strict different address. So nina nisipromisa yini as iRising Mzansi?
Mhlawumbe ngicela uku-explaina i-process esithathile before sifike into i-manifesto because essentially mesikhuluma ngey'thembiso we are speaking about izinto ey'bhalwe kwi-manifesto yethu. So ukulaunch as iRising Mzansi we launched on the 19th of April last year 2023. Abantu abaningi-ke bathi new kids on the block inhlangano entsha but I think into abangayazi abantu abaningi abaseNingizimu Afrika is that it actually took us close to 2 years to reach a decision to register and to participate in politics. Abaningi bethu who sit within a NLC because as 9 top 6 we have a national leadership collective. But my background it's business, it's religious leaders, it's civil society abantu who have been doing in emphakathini. And the reason why it wasn't an easy decision is because I understand the politics in Ningizim Africa. I constantly get lombuzo ukuthi umuntu osifazana omncane yini nje kodwa Nkosi yami under the sun ngakwenza ungene kwipolitiki. But because we already had abantu that we were reporting to in our individual capacities, I've spent 13 years in civil society in across in South Africa. We had to go back in Palatini and say, should we then move into politics? Because yes, sisebenza as NGOs, but when it is we aren't able to influence policy. Sibuza abantu abaseNingizimu Afrika, what would you like a new political alternative to look like? Even igama lethu thina lethi Rising Mzansi because it's a call to action. Nalo sanikezwa through my consultations as I went.
So consultants as what as ama NGOs or vele as iRising Mzansi.
Yeah. So there was a small structure of, I think, about 10 when we started. Actually, the first engagement, it was happening in 2022 in October. So more than about 500 from different civil society organizations, business, nabefundisi. And kuleyo gathering, we there's something fundamentally wrong. What do we need? What can we start? But because some are NGOs, you can't also dabble in politics as an NGO. You have to register, not as a political movement, but as inhlangano yepolitiki. And then satsibona andikwazi ukwenza ama decision niba u500 ninabantu enibaledayo. So go back, have a conversation, and then we'll convene again, feedback. In November, more than 1,000 people this time around, and still we need an alternative. We need an alternative. So that is where we got the direction yet, in terms of then exploring what is this alternative, and that is where our consultation started. So we did over more than 1,000 consultations across eNingizimu Africa. So figure no shinjos or wakizindlu in 5 years' time, but that process was to enable us to be able to pick up whether it's a Free State, it's a eKZN, it's a Gauteng. What are these issues that keep coming up? After we did those consultations, it's a hosta convention. What we aimed to do in the convention is alright. Pillars, themes, let's transport across South Africa. In one room, to further unpack consultations. And then after the convention, abantu were able to go with your family, within your community, which are easy, within your governance, offer solutions, and then only after a convention, we refined our inputs, and that is where we ended up with the manifesto. So young into oyifunda we manifesto wasn't into eKZN leadership rising Mzansi in a room and then established as a priority areas. That's why.
So if I may, so nina beni as a members, current members, rising Mzansi, ben vele niglama NGOs or nigcine somewhere from different fields like Usongezo, Zibi, Useqhamuka, chairperson. Obama was this
national lead.
National lead. Okay, chairperson, national. Fine. So Benny no, Benny lesibaya vele lesibona
no, besingazani. Kwakhona a few of us, and I think sonke sasipart of le day November. They are in about more than 1,000.
Okay.
But sasingazani. So ngangamazi uVuyiso, ngangamazi uSilneste, ngangamazi uIrfani because we were in the same circles of community development. Ngangamazi uEdda because sasenza groundwork emphakathini. So sazana emphakathini, not in offices.
Okay.
Usuke sahlangana ngalo, I think abantu who were in the room ngangazi about 4 out of about 15 people. And at that time, and because a lot of times launch and we don't understand the background work. And that is what we try to do as Mzansi, to show Abantu every single step and take Abantu throughout the journey. So we get into a room as Azani, but we know that we are here for one mission. At the time, wonke umuntu was, I think 80% babesebenza, like ukhona amadogo esiwabambayo. So when we started ngangisebenza nami, and I would have to wake up, ngiyakhumbula, I had ingane, I think when I won at the time, I would have to wake up eKZN at about 5:30 because meeting yethu iqala ngo6. Be in a meeting up until 8. Lapho ngesemgaqweni I'm headed to work, and by 8 ngiyaqala ukusebenza. Clock off in about 4, 5, 6 p.m. we also have a meeting. So that is how Into Rising Mzansi came up. We were all employed at the time. But because there was this constant call, no man, we can't have another 5 years under these conditions. And that was the meeting to get to know national leadership as it is. Manje, what's Into it? So
in terms of we told futhi ukuthi and belonging in my organization athize uthola ukuthi nikhona as ama-individuals but khona ama-organizations politics enibelonga kuwona beningabelongi kwepolitics?
No, Bessie, we no longer are. Mengasho mina nje if ngibala inhlangano esengiyizamile over the past couple of years because ngilangazelela ushintsho.
Okay.
I voted for a number of political parties. But
Because that also believe
I've voted.
That belongs
so,
to the past.
All right. So I voted for. I voted for the ANC. I think abantu abaningi abahlala eNingizimu Africa when we were sold in New Dawn, we actually thought.
Oh, okay.
It was a New Dawn. Kwakunenkulumo ukuthi no, but you know, nangu umuntu ohead up in New Dawn. But I've placed my hope in inhlangano eningi zepolitiki, whether it's national or provincial. But at the end of the day, awukho umuntu ukuthi uthini ubheka izenzo.
Okay.
Uyaqalaza emphakathini ukuthi from the time of iziphi izinto esishintshile, and once you see izinto zihlehla instead of going forward, it then becomes into ekumele uyisukumele in one way or the other.
But do you really think it's a
I do. I think maningi ama gains that we have had since, you know, freedom post 1994. Singawabala singaqedi futhi. But we also have to acknowledge ukuthi in those gains we've also gone back. Iqiniso lelo. You speak to abantu manje and this is where oma bethi kwakungcono ngobandlululo.
Yo.
and that's the reality, and then you have to sit and ulale ukuthi is kungani. So kubhlungu most of the times, because if we understand it design nama intentions yobandlululo and how abantu abamnyama were treated, then kuba nzima ukuthi umuntu ethi actually it was much better and much safer gains ukuzobandlululo than now, and we are in 30 years into inkululeko and abantu bathi asikwazi ukukhuluma ngani.
By the way, sihleli unonkululeko bamhlongo hlogwani. Unonkululeko usuka lapha kwe-Rise Mzansi ngicabanga ukuthi u-national convener or national chair no national convener wayo uSongezo Zibi phela fanele nawe against umqhakambise ohleli lapha phezulu and then dina ma structures but by the look of things nonkululeko bengibabheka bonke ngoba ade ngibona noTebogho lapha eJohani elokhuzana eGauteng ngiyabona ukuthi yena vele khona ithreathanyana but ayifani yakho la eKZN ngicabanga ukuthi Rise Mzansi ithe gijimi kwavele wathi boom kwavelo MK manje understand ama challenges I think ibona wonke ama conveners ekhona eRise Mzansi but amakhulu ngathi abhekane nawo by the fact nje ukuthi umsholozi suka kule province and unaleyo support or following. I'm sure abanye abantu sebeya even doubt ukuthi ebengithi ngizohamba no Rise Mzansi but bye nje sengi ayihlukumezi le nto kakhulu especially when
cha the expectation is yes. As a Rise Mzansi, we always welcome amaqembu amasha. Abantu bahlezi bekhala ngokuthi yo soqhamuka omunye 300 banibani. But it's part of the democracy yethu. Abantu abaseningizimu Africa should be able to have ama choices. Abakwazi ukuthi maybe neyikhalazo befisa ukuthi bakhethe umuntu ongakwazi ukubalungisela zona. Then bakhethe from a good selection of abantu. The only thing engizoyisho nge is that abantu bahlezi beyishintsha ibongo. It doesn't necessarily mean ukuthi bahlukile bona.
If you understand, you understand. But at the ultimate end, the political organization maningi afikile and akira iweithi engicabanga ukuthi ayifani, but ama issues are the same.
Yeah.
Manje yini nale ezokwenza iRise Mzansi ihluke nokuthi ngisabuyela ekuvoteleni inhlangano kade ngivotela ukuthi manje ake ngenze ushintsho manje ngithi Rise Mzansi why kumele nginike iRise Mzansi ithuba njengomvoti waseNingizimu Afrika?
So as uRise Mzansi umubheka ama posters ethu nezinto esikhulumayo, we constantly say sidinga abaholi abasha so that we are able to have new solutions.
Abasha ngokwe age or abasha?
New leaders.
New leaders.
Nango we age, because it's actually quite important, and I hope also was Utola is cut to talk about the youth vote. But Abasha, in the sense of imphakathi have ama solutions for inkinga yabo. No matter which imphakathi ongena kuwona, maybe khala ngendlala, they have solutions for it. Maybe khala ngamathuba omsebenzi, they have solutions for that issue. And uSongezo always says ukuthi everything is centered around choices. So you can either, as abaholi, decide to spend billions on rescuing SAA, or you could choose ukuthi wonke umuntu oseNingizimu Afrika angalali emadlini. That's a choice. You could choose to bail out inkampani with billions, or you could choose ukuthi kwakhiwe ama-toilets so that ingane zethu ayishonele ama-toilets ey'koleni. The current thing we face in Ningizimi more than anything, we have an issue of leaders. From top right through to bottom, abantu bakhale ngokuthi self-voteli council like 2 till the next month. So kunendawo nama-councillor 2. Because wathutha waya, because la yakhona showcase wafica council khona. So it's an issue of leadership. We can come up with a blueprint of ukuthi soyiguqula kanjani iNingizimu Afrika in the next 5, 10, 20 years. Unless we are able to change our leaders, then we will still be stuck with abantu who don't prioritize abantu in Ningizim Africa. That is why even as Mzansi, our first contact point is always umphakathi. Abantu see izinto esiyifaka ku social media, and that is why ngithe when I see interacting emphakathi ngendlela ehlukile. Half of the things esenza emphakathini don't end up on our social media pages because asifuna ukukhankasa ngenhlupheko yabantu, and that's important. It's not just important ukuthi sifike sizolalela inkinga and then be abantu messiah abazofika bezospresent. And we are the first political party that tells abantu ukuthi don't give inhlangano zepolitiki so much power. There is no one political party in Ningizim Africa engasolva zonke inkinga zase South Africa. Ngabe sikhuluma amanga mesithi khona. What we need is to build a trust yabantu abaseNingizimu Africa where they are able to hold ubuholi accountable, where they feel as if the system actually works to deliver izinto abayicelayo, where they feel as if there isn't this bridge between policies and leadership and parliament and execution compared to abantu. So in this beginning, we didn't launch ngesikhathi esikahle because abantu thought we were using this as an opportunity to gain seats, because why launch before an election? There is never a wrong time to launch a political party. There's never a wrong time to try and deliver ushintsho emphakathini osuka wona. And for us, siyathuka
because it's the eve of the election.
Absolutely.
And then in a senior cup. Why didn't you campaign 4 or 5 years ago?
But then we would have been accused of gearing up for local government elections.
Oh, okay.
So you can get, there is no perfect time to launch a political party. But what we do, and that gains trust yabantu, is ukuthi kuney'ndawo esithukwa kuzona. Like it's nje. The minute sithi rise Mzansi inhlangano yepolitiki kuthiwa wengane yami ningisize nje ningazosiqambela amanga emini sisadila nezinto ey'ningi sixoshwe. But we are also, as Rise Mzansi, the first people who show up for that community in the Koning.
Yes, but from we was that engicabanga concern abantu abaningi base South Africa. Ngiyayibona lento ukuthi nizengeqiniso yabo, especially with politics, but push iqiniso ngempela benibe. But khona izinto engicabanga ukuthi affecta wonke umphakathi wase South Africa, engicabanga ukuthi manje ucikekile izona. Engifuna ukuthi mhlambe bongiphendula iquestion ungitshele nje ukuthi for sure sengistatishile nani nezengene kwi-politics. Ijinto abakhuluma ngayo abantu i-load shedding, kulahleka imisebenzi, kwenzeka izinto ey'ningi ey'wrong ngenxa ye-load shedding. Mhlambe nje in the next 2 hours la kese uzophela. Futhi lo mkhiqizo esiwenzayo thina sekuphazamiseka yonke into. Sengisho ukuthi iyas-affecta on the ground. Ithini i-Rise Mzansi beyihleli executive yawo or njabade nine-manifesto nihlangene nivumelane ngani ukuthi ningayixazulula kanjani i-issue ye-load shedding? Mhlawumbe ngizazobuye ngibuze futhi nalokho okunye oku-affecta umphakathi direct.
Faka abantu were able to do the job. Kunamathenda phumayo ko-Eskom. We outsource izinto efana besiyazenza thina eNingizimu Afrika. And these are issues because then ama-tender ne-service nezinto that we need to outsource in terms of ama-services are then outsourced to based on ukuthi unikene nobani. So both Eskom or Transnet are highly politicized. And the thing is, unless we're able to change management and put abantu who are actually capable of delivering izinto, then angeke kushintshe.
No, but it's into delay ukuthi uEskom ungafunction ngendlela efana ngokufunctiona ngayo bazokubekela ukuthi it might happen ukuthi ingqalasizinda or infrastructure
because it hasn't been serviced. Yes, why?
No ngathi into ewumlando esuka ukuthi bona njengamanje they are busy trying with battle no
for 30 years. For 30 years. But akwazi.
Sengisho ukuthi wena unkuleko mhlawumbe akusiyo yini question ngifuna uyiquestion ukuthi sile ezirise Mzansi sawa checka wonke lama stations power stations sathola ukuthi lama power stations angaphinda futhi asebenze for the next 50 years mhlawumbe without a problem. Le problem lebayibekayo abathi yona cause ukuthi siphelele ugesi.
But the problem ecaused yibona. That is what I'm saying. Inkinga zase South Africa are not aqhamuke emoyeni zicaused abantu, and then it becomes the very same people abafuna ukushaya izandla when they fix an issue that they caused. You can't cause an issue. You know what Eskom needs. You know what Transnet needs. And it's constantly a leadership thing because abantu abaqashwayo have to align with the political agenda of sorts. So what we always say, and I'm almost going to sound like a broken record. A lot of inkinga zethu Africa lie with leadership. We have ample people who could solve it by Eskom. Never once was there a call to say we are calling out of my expertise at easy to be able to assist. You speak about the infrastructure. The biggest mistake, Satima's transition into 1994, we didn't stem out of our systems or infrastructure that was already laid out by the apartheid government. That is why after 30 years, Amakaya wana ugesa wana amanzi.
Sihlelo nonkululeko from Mzansi and we convene like eKZN sithokoza kakhulu ukuthi ashare konke namhlanje asivakashele sohlala naye la with podcast affirmation. By the way, you can subscribe and like lapha ku page lethu le YouTube, it's podcast affirmation. You can check us as well with Facebook page yethu la engiqhenya khona ukuthi sinaba followers of 2.5 plus ayanyuka. By the way, ngicela ukuthi usicheke futhi kulelo page le Facebook. Ngicabanga ukuthi kubaleka kakhulu. Ake sibuze ngendaba enonkululeko. Ngicabanga ukuthi uzayichaza kanje soloko siqalile ngokwami lo. Ngifuna ukuchecka le issue yokubambisana kohulumeni naku-government as a whole ukuthi siyakhona nje manje sekunabantu abayibiza ngo-multi charter multi-charter party and stuff like those. And ngibona ngokufunda kwami ngathi nina animisele or angakayimiseli ukuthi nidlelane nabanye uthola ukuthi niyangena kulezo inhlangano because ikhona lento ephushwa opposition parties ethi sifune nje ukubona inhlangano ebusayo isuka kwipower. Ithini position yenu?
That's not enough to put us as Mzansi into a coalition. Just to say ukuthi sifuna ukususa, it has to be into a more. We've had my invitations from a multi-charter. From the time Silon Jade last year, April, every single interview, are you part of the multi-charter? And we have declined.
Declined to comment or
declined to be part of the moonshot. To be part, Sanab, we've continued to say no. We will continue to say no up until after our elections. Not to say after one and then to say yes. But for us, as Elisha, we had to ask ourselves, into a coalition, singing.
No. It's when as iqembu. I think iqembu it just where ekuthini kade ngiyi ANC ngaqimbukela kwenye inhlangano sokuyiqembukela ayithi ANC I regard the ANC as inhlangano you understand but bese kusuka iPAC EFF iNkatha ifuna isuka ANC but all those political formations say amaqembu ezepolitiki manje wena ukuthi uyiqembu
inhlangano yepolitiki inhlangano yepolitiki akunjalo MultiCharter. So we said no on the basis of ukuthi besabasha. And we had to ask ourselves, so to say, Joyina, sizobe negotiate on what basis? Because even at that time, we hadn't even had a manifest as yet. But we also know ukuthi ama coalitions oftentimes kunale saying ukuthi when the elephants fight, the grass suffers. We've seen ama coalitions in the past couple of years, how they function. There isn't service delivery in Paratini. So for us, the only coalition at the time, which is the reason why Sisunabile up until now, the only coalition that we are interested in is a coalition with the citizens of South Africa. Because you also have to have a conversation on ukuthi si align kanjani on our values. And the thing about our coalitions is that you don't get into a coalition with umuntu because we are mad or you like them. It's not that personal. Uthi now because angiyithandi iqembu I'll never get into a coalition now. You need to be able to get into a coalition nomuntu who is able to deliver umsebenzi, umuntu who is able to service abantu abahlala eNingizimu Afrika, umuntu who is action orientated and vumelana ngayo in terms of solutions and our values. And for us that has always been a standing point. But abanye abantu bayabuza ukuthi but why not join an existing political party? Why start your own thing? 2021 elections, kwaphuma slightly over 30% of abantu baseNingizimu Afrika bayovota. So my question is always, nganifuna sojoin abani when abantu baseNingizimu Afrika sat home and didn't vote for inhlangano ekhona. But also the direction, the vision esinayo wasn't similar to izinto ezazikhulunywa at the time. And abantu were saying, mega just says ukuthi jiki kuzovela ikhanda inthizi kwinhlangano yenu, then regard it as a sense of
it. This is just a follow-up question. Now you realize Mzansi alithatha ukhetho national.
Uzuyahleka.
Hypothetically speaking. Niyalithatha ukhetho but ama numbers awavumi kahle. Adinga ukuthi negotiate with any organization. Ngibuzele into kanjalo. While sometimes the position yenu currently is fine, but sesiface ama realities manje ama coalition. Nayo ke manje senwidileke the club of action of 50+1 but ke sephoqelekile manje ukuthi khuluma noHlalisa, khuluma noBaleba, khuluma noBusi Maimane. What do you do?
Again, akuyi ngokuthi uthanda bani. It can't go on the fact that angiyithandi ANC, therefore I will speak to the ANC, angiyithandi DA or any other political party for that matter. It has to be on the basis who is able to deliver izinto esiyithembisile or esiyikhulumile emphakathini ezokwazi ukushintsha impilo zabantu. So we'd probably walk into our negotiations at least izinto eziwu-5 negotiating ngazo. And then it would be a matter of kulezo zinto eziwu-5, at the very least we need to get 3 right. 3 hours we move. And then obviously you were able to negotiate with him. But again, for us,
but I'm sure totally. Totally.
Yeah.
In terms of formal policies, kona manje kade ngihlanganisa into ema policies lapha whatever nghlaka 20 January. So we are born with I know a freedom charter, a freedom front class, it don't really barely. But we are no to sense if we see 77 on those grounds. What do you do there?
So I can't predict.
I need to say
I'm going to predict. What I can do is ukuthi mase iqalile lezi inkulumo usungangicela ukuthi ngibuye kuyi-podcast ngisho ukuthi no sihlalile nosibani sangavumelana ngezinto ezithize sihlala nosibani sangahlasimbe ngimemezele nesimeme kwezinye inhlaka. But it's difficult to say njengamanje honestly speaking.
Ungaqoma ba? Okay, isikhathi esiningi manje nonkululeko i-youth iyadominata kule space. Understand bengibuka umholi wenu. Angazi noma i-term appropriate but bengibuka umholi wenu uyoung. Bengibuka wena uyoung izwena understand leyo. And abantu abakhulile njengami yabo baba reluctant kwesinye isikhathi ukunika amandla abantu abasha ngenxa yezinto abagcina nabo bezenza reckless understand abenza izinto isinoma ikanjani.
Where does that narrative come from?
No sibonile ngabanye abaholi ngithi bekunalento dominator ukuthi no we must give young people a chance to lead and all that stuff but uyezwa abantu abayoung izinto abazenzayo using mhlambe willinile imali yahulumeni ukuthi umuntu athengele ama-flowers umuntu wakhe understand that at high expense yabo sengisho ukuthi young people understand no angithi manje i-question yami focus to young people nokuba budedengu babo understand that ukuthi nina ezilukhuzana you are young understand and these people abadala in reality it's by experience understand so nizwe address kanjani i-issue of young people as a leaders.
So abantu abasha don't need to get given a platform to lead. Abantu abasha bayahola njengamanje. Sihleli nje la siyakhuluma. Young people are leading in different spaces. I think indlela that we phrase inkinga ziba nomthelelo in terms of the solutions eziqhamuka nazo. So if you phrase the problem wrong, then most likely the solution ezoqhamuka nayo izoba incorrect.
So politics umuntu ngumbalula uyang
athi we youth endala
uyang sisho njalo
uyabona ukuthi we youth endala le esino great to youth endala futhi lelo term nje laqhamuka a certain group of people because you understand ukuthi basebenza kanjani. But Rise Mzansi, it's not just young people. Bakhona abantu abadala that we rely on.
That's no answer, babona.
Kanjani?
Angazi ngibabona.
No, asithi awukakalitholi ithuba lokubabona.
No, I can check it's really.
No, but all of our NLC arrange abantu abasha, abantu abadala, abafundayo, the elderly, yoDA Kabela is a senior, Nick Benedel is a senior. But even in Pagatina, my structures are seven and now. Oh, my God, think so over voter registration. I went on. You say, I know Mama Batal. And again, it's not what's your figure now. The provincial convener rises and the sensible figure with a certain ego. Your figure, Jazz, Makoti, Shais get this figure, Matalani, Shokulile Kanda, because it also comes with understanding a context in Pagati, which a whole lot of our political leaders lose down the line.
So in
I was taking Palestine based law.
Before Jessica, in the major and what would say ANC.
One thing, they're not leading.
No, elaborate more. Tata Minagre about to jail playing. Because also too many monto. I'm honest, I'm not campaigning for them. Because so many monto. Emhlabeni jikelele awukuhulumeni ovela wakhela abantu izinto.
No, but there's no accountability. Asikhulume ngento yodwa ngisibaza kakhulu. No, ngiyakuzwa. No, I fully hear you.
Izindlu bazokutshela ukuthi kune free education. Bazokutshela ukuthi abantu baya provide amanzi athize and all that stuff. Abantu banawo ugesi as compared to leminyaka ledlule manje understand abantu abaningi banogesi babo khona manje politically we can discuss politics noma inini noma ikuphi simply because of ANC bazotshela because of ANC angisho ukuthi abanawo ama shortcomings abo but in reality ithi kukhona lokho kuhle okuningi ngiyazi ukuthi ngicontent nini content indaba ye racism ukuthi sithi party ANC ngathi siphezulu lisho njalo as i-rise Mzansi akithi libona i-racism iphezulu.
It's not what we say, it's what imphakathi say. Imphakathi also say ukuthi post 94 kwakhulunywa nge-Rainbow Nation. Bazizwa sengathi they abandoned that agenda or that mission of ukubumbanisa i-culture. But to answer umbuzo, completely agree with when ayikho inhlangano engathi nje yonke imizi sizoyakhelwa ngumuntu eNingizimu Afrika. We also don't expect that that is the reality. However, we do expect, and ingasho mina as always Mzansi, but ngizokwazisa ukuthi abantu bathini esikhuluma nabo emphakathini, because those are the voices that made us for educators as always Mzansi.
Yeah.
Kunemphakathi, and actually 2 instances, COVID, where we needed to be led as a country, where we needed to be protected as a country. What do you mean?
No, we had about Minister of Health who did justice to the portfolio.
Tell me more.
Dr. Zweli Mkhize, everyone was singing in the Zweli Mkhize in terms of economy. No, as being realistic.
No, I'm paying
the president about managing Ireland COVID because into be unexpected, but powers you lose that though you send a mafanda safari accounted for. It's not good to but things are good, but powers we in a way, I don't understand like the spokesperson, but
no, and again, I'm not saying ukuthi abenzanga lutho. No, will I ever say ukuthi ANC ayikho into enhle area
yabona ngelapho
usuke but we also need to have the conversation Jovo expire. We need to have a conversation around communication engafikanga ngendlela emphakathini. We need to have a conversation around imali that was designated for ukuthi kusizakala abantu engaka account for njengamanje. We need to have a conversation on ama-food parcel that never reached abantu, even kuningi. And what we have a tendency of doing, Tina, as abantu aba-privileged, because I never dispute ukuthi in my own way ngi-privileged, and that is why ngihlezi ngiyi-check into engikhuluma ngayo, izinto ngithanda ukuzizwa before I have a position on them. We get certain information as abantu who have access to information. 70% of eKZN doesn't have access to information. 70% of KZN are the people who rely on our leaders as a KZN to act ethically. Because if it doesn't, it costs in bill. It's also a matter of my choice, because I always say to you, it will always come down to choice. You have a choice of ukuthi kuphume amanzi okuphuma ama-food parcel as umuntu who's the leader in the community. Instead of ukunikeza abantu abalambile, you decide to hoard them emzini wakho. Kuphume imali to prevent ama-numbers okufa okushona that every single day now during COVID. And the choice was made ukuthi leyo mali icazwe ubuholi, and instead of addressing abantu. So yes, there were things done, but we can't cover the little things that are done right over the injustice ekhona eyenziwayo njengamanje. Kunengane during COVID engakazi ubona umpompi impilweni yabo yonke yena 7 COVID kuthiwa siwashe izandla kangaka ngosuku, thiwa isolate kuphi emjondolo. What was the plan? Understanding the context of South Africa, understanding the context of eKZN. Mekuphuma imessage ukuthi gezani izandla ka-2 no 3 ngosuku. What's the application enhluphekweni?
No. I think ngiyakuzwa lapho ayibeka. Yazi ngikhumbula nemgodi. Ekubona yabiwa.
Ungangikhumbula. And we always call for one thing. Sebenza ngenhlonipho, isidima is so important. It's not just about izindlu. It's izindlu abantu abangakwazi ukuhlala kuzona nemndeni yabo babe safe kuzona lezo zindlu. It's not just ukunikezwa umhlaba. It's ukunikeza umhlaba ongakwazi ukusebenza, umhlaba onamanzi, umhlaba onogesi. It's not just about building ikole. It's about building ikole as it designed ukuthi yonke ingane engena kuzona isucceed empilweni in 5 to 10 years time. So asikwazi ukwenza izinto nje because sizothika sakhe imizi siphinde sibala ama-room ehostela la uyezisona.
Yazi ngikhumbuza isikhathi sakudala yabo. Sasicomplain emlazi sibe sino 4 room. But away ukuthi labo 4 room bagcina bengcono kunalezi zakhiwa manje. It's sad, ne?
Yeah.
No, it's sad.
Sengikhuluma iphuzo nje le kukhona omunye umngane omuhle lemlazi babekhelwa izindlu eventually after years of requesting. But because wayenokubuza imibuzo eminingi ngikutshela ukuthi kwakhiwa imizi kwaskipha umuzi wakubo kwaskipha umakhelwane baqhubeka bakhe imizi down the road. Why? Because basevisa abantu that support them, not necessarily ama-citizens aseNingizimu Afrika.
Right, Mzansi concern kakhulu nge-leadership, but I understand ukuthi i-mandate I think isuke probe ukuthi guys iphuma le budget manje hambani niyosiza umphakathi ngendlela ethize. Ublame abani along the way bekuzosuka a corrupt individual afuna ukuyibenefitisa yena ongasi mandate ye-organization. I-Rise Mzansi ayisho ukuthi amtshontsho along the way, but umsebenzi uyaphuma ukuthi akwenziwe into ethize uyasuka laphana uhumeva usentshontsha imali. Sizothi uhulumeni noma ukukhohlakala kwale individual.
So you don't rely on the goodness of umuntu to carry out the task. Our systems need to be able to factor in accountability. So you won't know ukuthi ngolesibili into ozindlu uzongena la ntshontsha imali ebekelwe ukuthi sihambe so donate esontweni or a crash. You don't know that. But when it happens, when it does happen, accountability is important. Not accountability behind closed doors. I see moving or I had any portfolio because it's standing in. But you need to be able to say, maybe who hambi malengaka. Sibona lo muntu entshontshe imali being held accountable, not moved and being promoted to other positions within iNhlangano, other positions that they can then continue to steal from.
No. I think lapho ngiyakuzwa kahle nanokuthi nje khona izinto engicabanga ezingifikelayo time ukhuluma there is why wena ngathi ngishawa amali mathize, but ngicabanga lento ye-commission kaZondo yabona uthola ukuthi kuze kube imanje asikakabi clear ukuthi labantu laba bapanishwa kanjani abatholakala be-involved, kodwa siyathola ukuthi abanye bama ministers, deputy ministers. That's bad, ne?
Yeah, imali zikusofa. Again, it's about accountability. You don't hold umuntu accountable because abantu sebethethile or bakhoza umsindo, which is what happens in Ningizimu Africa. You hold umuntu accountable if you truly believe ukuthi into yenziwe wrong. But if you don't hold them accountable, shuthi akekho othintekayo. Akekho obonayo ukuthi actually this money could have been used kwezinye indawo ezikwazilekelela abantu. If you don't hold umuntu accountable, it shows ukuthi nawe either uyayenza leyo nto or you don't see it as an issue. But we also can't have leaders who think that way.
I hope ukuthi awantshontshe awe-Rise Mzansi. I hope ukuthi awantshontshe awe-Rise Mzansi. Lokhu le ngicabanga ukuthi nje kube isikhathi esimnandi ukuthi sibe nawo, but awutshele mina-ke manje ubhekile ya camera ukuthi ezi-Rise Mzansi sivotelini upresident kune-likelihood or mhlampe last week, I'm not too sure, ngisakhumbula mhlampe uyikhiphile i-date kwi-State of the Nation address. Ngathi ukuthi phela State of the Nation address sizophuma sisiphune ikusasa and thina sophuma after, but omtshele ukuthi why ngempela on that particular date kumele asukume ahamba that idea yakhe athi sogezo ngiyathuba ngevothi la ukuthi abobele onokuleko ngithuma wena ke siswa ukuthi ungimele lapha ungimele ngokweqiniso ngoba abantu bakithi reality tempethu bayalambile bahluphekile, but sibuye sidiscusse le politics endiza labo bophezulu ubona yabo nalezi zinto lezi engamsiza ngalutho ezokuthi upresident noma trust ayimsizi leyo nto ofuna ukubona amanzi lapha, yena ufuna ukubona ingane yakhe esikoleni, yena ufuna ukubona ugesi usebenza, understand lapha on the ground nama streets umgwaqo ungenama pothole yabo. I believe ukuthi yona into affect kuyaphatha kakhulu kunokuthi phala umsholozi ugijima inkantolo understand angiboni ukuthi kuyamsiza lokho kakhulu lwamuntu lo wasemlazi lwamuntu wasezingolweni yabona obayitshele before sivala yaphathi short.
Ngiyabonga kakhulu again igama uNonkululeko Hlongwane Mhlongo ngiyi-provincial convener ye-Rise Mzansi eKZN. 2024 is a huge election. Ngezathu ethize abantu sebehlupheke kakhulu, abantu bakhala ngokuthi inhlupheko bayayibona every single day, abanye omama bayibulala kanye nezingane. So as Rise Mzansi sithi use u2024 ukwazi ukudeliver ushintsho olufunayo. Ngiyazi ukuthi nikhathele, nathi sikhathele. But siyacela ukuthi niyincenge get out into the voting stations. Le weekend esuka kuyona was voter registration weekend yokugcina before ukhetho. Please use the lisonto sekulona to be able to register to vote. Either uye ema-ofisini ye-IEC eseduze nawe or register online kwi-IEC portal. Why lokhu kubalulekile is because if uPresident Cyril Ramaphosa announce usuku lama-elections, ngalo suku a-announce ngalo by 12 PM ebusuku kuzovalwa i-voters roll, okusho ukuthi ngisho usulibonile iqembu ongalivotela angeke ukwazi ukuvota kulama elections alonyaka because uzobe ungarejistile. Again, ngiyazi angeke ningikholwe mengikhuluma ngenza ithembiso on the camera. So into engiyicelayo is ukuthi nibheke izenzo ze-Rise Mzansi, go onto our social media pages, sikhona ku Facebook, Instagram, Twitter na TikTok. Nibone imisebenzi ye-Rise Mzansi ningezwe ngoNonkululeko Hlongwane kuphela. Ngiyabonga.
Don't you take the one I wouldn't do if you please take pictures. See you in 7.